Oh, it's working. Ah. Hey, everyone. I just want to say hi. And of course, I don't. Oh, I do have glasses. Hold on. So, what I thought I would do today is talk about the moon. And today, the moon's in Scorpio, and how that influences us. And particularly those of us who are empaths or ADHD, which I'm starting to learn has a very strong effect on being hyper focused. So that's a really interesting thing too. So I just want to say hi to a couple people. Hey, Tremaine, good to see you. Chris, good to see you. Jennifer, hi. So what I wanted to do today was talk about of course, the moon being in Scorpio right now is affecting us all. Basically, we want to hit people, humanimal, and that's where and I think also moon in Scorpio makes us really. We don't suffer fools gladly. Let me put it that way. Moon in Scorpio, when it's in Scorpio, it's digging. It's looking for those things we may not have seen emotionally that was perhaps bothering us in the past. Hi, guys, as you check in. And so I want to just say that one of the things that's happening, and some of you guys may relate to this. Do you relate to this? The idea that, check this out. Okay. So you might notice that you've been exhausted for a while, and all of a sudden when you have energy, no one's ready to have energy with you. It's like that kind of feeling like, okay, I'm ready. And then like, where is everybody? Oh, they're all taking a nap. So sometimes it can be like that. So so that's what this moon in Scorpio is doing. By the way, we've got almost every other planet in Virgo right now. And you know what Virgo does? They go, oh, are you sure you want to use this pen? Is that right? And then moon in Scorpio is going, I researched it. I know what I'm doing. Let's just do it. And they're like, but wait a minute. Let's make sure that the line is perfectly straight. Is this how we wanted to organize this? And it's like, you're going, oh, okay, I'm fine. And like, I've been finding that today in particular, and over the weekend as well, because I have Virgo rising. I don't know if you've got Virgo in your chart, you're going to be hit this week. And that's something I'm noticing for me is that, and I don't know, again, I think some of you are relating to this idea, but take a look at this. Over the weekend, I found that I had to play catch up for people that hadn't done the work the right way. It's not their fault. They didn't know how. I don't know if that's relating to you guys at all, but like, it just felt this weekend in particular, it was like, that wasn't done right. And meanwhile, everybody was saying to me, it was done right, it was done right. And in the past, I would have gone, oh, okay, and then it would have been done wrong. And I would have gone, but now, and some of you know, I was diagnosed, I want to say it's about 10 days ago now, with ADHD. And everybody thinks it's so negative, and it can be, okay? It totally can be. But something I didn't know is that with ADHD, if you have it, then we get hyper-focused, which is explaining now why I am a very good reader. Because the ADHD gives me that hyper focus, and I can dive under the wave and really see beyond what's right there. And I think there are some magical gifts that come from being that way. In particular, a lot of creative people are ADHD. And part of that is because we're creating stuff, but at the same time, there's a self-destructiveness to it. There's an inability, and it's so funny. Y'all are going to love this. One of the things of ADHD is we can't sit still, okay? I don't know if anybody relates to this, right? The inability to sit still. Well, I was kind of laughing because I'm like, I don't have ADHD. I'm ADD. And then all of a sudden I remembered I went to a seminar, I guess it was about 1.5 years ago, that I remembered that I went. And it was one of those sit in the chair all day. I have to be honest, I had to pop out of there like 50 times. I'd like jump up and go. When everybody was working, I'd jump up and run out the door. And I would literally get into the lobby and go, and not know what I had to do. But I just couldn't sit still. And that's part of the mind racing. It's part of the inability to make order of things at the rate in which our mind is working. So just to give you an example of how planets can influence us, especially if you don't need to be ADHD to have that. You can also be in you could be very creative. You can be an empath, because empaths have that same inability to get things done. Are you noticing that? If you're an empath, you all of a sudden get a feeling and you can't move. Like sometimes we get an overwhelming sadness, and that can be because we're relating to something so deep, and it makes us unable to follow through. So there's some and by the way, ADHD people tend to be empaths. I also found an interesting statistic about it as I'm talking about Moon and Scorpio and all this, because that makes us go, do the research. So I've been doing a ton of research, of course. But one of the things I found out is that it's ridiculous. Like something like, forgive me for getting this number wrong, but it was something like up to 10% of the adult population is ADHD, and only 4% actually know it. So it's been a really interesting journey of discovering some of this. And Cruz Boston, you're like rock star. I just want to shout out to my mods. I'm sorry, I'm like my brain. But what I want to say about this is that one of the things that happens, especially with a moon, right, in Scorpio, this is how we are. Okay, this is how we are affected. Our bodies are almost 90% water, right? So there's been research. I don't even need, for those of you who don't even believe in astrology, you have to agree that there's research done that the full moon affects people a little bit more wackadoodle than not, right? So the idea is that our bodies energetically relate and respond to the position of the moon in the sky. So where the moon is also dictating oceans, and it's different in all parts of the world, right? So one of the things that becomes important here is that when we look at how we're affected by the moon, like Moon Scorpio, I want to get to the bottom of things. Well, the problem is that Virgo, which is where all the planets are, Virgo's like, let's do this and let's do this and let's do this. And Scorpio's like, that's fine. I want to find out about this, and it's because Scorpio needs the answers. Scorpio needs to know what's going on. And we need that information. So one of the things that happens is that, especially when you've got an ADHD brain, like I do, and I'm learning this, is that I'll be talking to you and I'll have we'll be talking about, nails. I was just going to say, nails, just picked up a nail file. We'll be talking about nails, for example, right? But what happens is then my brain goes, choo, 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 choo. It goes to 8 different subjects before I come back to you. And all of them have relevance in their own categories. However, what happens is because it is actually a brain thing, our brain doesn't quite connect the way other people's do. So imagine that we're already working on something, but we've got this influence of the moon. And something that I'm really going to start charting, which I think will be very interesting, is how I am, with my ADHD in the different moon signs. Because check this out. If Moon in Scorpio, I get very frustrated because I'm not finding the right answers, or it's not getting put together. Could it be that I need to focus on things where I can get the answers, like perhaps a class where I can get to the bottom of how to do something, rather than trying to solve how a website should be put together? So maybe that would be better served in a Moon Virgo. So what I'm trying to say is that for those of you that are empaths or have anything like ADHD, how cool would it be if you could work with the energy of the moon? Because let's face it, most of us, and I know that if you're listening to me, you're probably a salmon like I am, and you go upstream when everybody's going down. It's like I'm the one who will wander into a burning building because it's interesting and everybody else will be running out. I mean, it just seems that I think that if you're here, that tends to be what happens with the brain of an artist. Now, whether you have, ADHD or your brain is operating differently, right? What if in that energy of our moon sign, we could actually work that creativity, right? We could get the flow of that creativity better when we look at what our moon is, what the moon in the sky is, and then see how we feel. So it's almost like, when if you've ever been on an eating plan, for example, and someone says, well, write down what you eat every day, or write down what you're, I'm trying to think of how to say it. Write down what you're spending if you're trying to get a spending plan together. It would be like that in making a chart on how you specifically feel emotionally on a certain day. Like, for example, today I was just work, but I feel like I had to stop and I had to go past what I'd normally do into the other side of things. I had to kind of like have a conversation with someone about how something was operating. I couldn't actually talk about the thing. I had to talk about something way beyond it. I hope I'm making sense, but it was like I had to go underneath what I was trying to get done to solve the real issue. It's kind of like having I want to say an elevator in your building. And the problem is something is preventing the door from open fully, and all of the mechanisms are in the basement. So that's what it's like, Moon in Scorpio. You have to go way under, deal with the real problem so that the doors can open, and then you can figure out why it's not going to the top. So that's kind of when I find, for me, a Moon in Scorpio tends to make me back up. It's almost like taking a wrong turn and then going the right way. And it can be a very frustrating experience. Let me just see. Oh, Rudy, do you relate? Okay, let's see. I always thought she was joking, and she sort of was, because I was saying, but not sure if she really correlated with full moon. Oh. I missed the moon. Yeah. Okay. I see some of it. So one of the things, and I think it was Jennifer, forgive me if it wasn't you, Jennifer, but something about psychiatrists tend to see more people. So you find a lot more of the issues that are going on inside of us will surface on the days when there are certain, for example, I have a friend who says never get surgery on the day of Moon in Scorpio because you'll bleed more. Now, that doesn't mean you'll die. It just, it's just like a kind of, should I be cautious of that? So I think the thing about moon signs is that they really affect the way we are emotionally. And especially if you're an empath, especially if you're someone who works intuitively, or like I said, has some kind of brain thing. Mine is, the ADHD is much more around cognitive planning. I have trouble with that. And I'm learning it's so great to actually have a name and an idea around what these things are for me, because suddenly, because I've been alone for my whole life going, wow, I'm the only one who tries to get something started and I can't get it started, or, it's Rudy, what are you saying now? A procedure on the 11th. I'm dead. Oh, stop. You're fine. It's not Moon Scorpio on the 11th, Mr. Rudy, and we're all going to send you lots of prayers. Okay. So what I want to say, though, is that, it's really about an awareness. So for instance, and somebody said they were Moon Pisces. So to give you an example, Moon Pisces, dreamer. They like to create. They like to get lost in their creativity. They tend to be more, I want to say they kind of tend to be more, for lack of a better way of putting it, kind of dreamy. Some people say wish-washy. I think it's more like a thing of like, they don't really make emotional commitments. They make an emotional appearance. It's a little bit different. And so one of the things that happens is that when you look at your moon sign. So for example, somebody was a Moon Pisces and we look at Moon Scorpio. Well, those are both water signs. They're trining each other. So the days when everybody else will have to like dig for emotional answers, Pisces will be like, oh, it's too heavy for me. I'm going to go get a massage. I'm going to go think about myself. So what happens is your moon sign will naturally flow on certain days because it's in harmony with the way the moon is. However, Moon Pisces, when you're dealing with your opposition right now, so right now we've got all these planets in Virgo, you could be very annoyed, you could be drinking too much, you could be edgy, you could be irritable. One of the things you always want to remember in astrology is what opposes exposes. So for example, how many of you are Libras? All right, you got a Libra, they're very friendly, they're so nice, they want to hang out with you. Don't ever get them mad. Not kidding. Libra, mad, what opposes exposes, their opposite sign is Aries. So that's their opposite. So if you push somebody enough, they're going to just boom. And same with we look at Scorpio and Taurus. That's why they're opposing each other, right? So sometimes we have to look also at the other planets. But right now we're talking about how we are affected emotionally by where the moon is. And also we look at the planets around it. So moon in Scorpio, with all of that freaking Virgo around it, I think Pisces are probably just, kind of medicating themselves right now, the moon Pisces. So I think that's yes. And Red Like Wine just said, I've experienced Aries to be very aggressive. So what you want to, and by the way, they do have an aggressive streak. Now for me, being a Sagittarian, I love Aries. I think Aries are just fiery and fun, and they don't bother me. Nor do Leos bother me. I think they're a lot of fun. Now, I have friends who are other signs that go, oh, like Red Like Wine said, oh, no, Aries, or no, Leo. And it's like, I find them to be a lot of fun because I love the fire, and I'm a fire sign. But, I think that it also, there's so many factors in a chart. How you see the world is very much based on your rising sign. And obviously for that, you really need to have a chart run and you need to know how to read it. But what becomes important, I think, about a chart and can become very fun is that when you know your chart and then like, let's say, that you have a particular rising sign, which is the sign rising at the time of your birth, and you know where the houses are, right? So today, moon in Scorpio, where's Scorpio in my chart? It's going to be in my third house. What that means in English is it's in my Gemini house, which means a lot of communicating with different people because Geminis love to talk, right? So I've got that. And I had to emotionally go through things. And I really did. I had to tell people what was wrong with things. And it was different people. It wasn't one person. It was like 4 or 5 conversations I had to have. So based on where that moon in the sky is falling in your chart, it's going to tell you how it's affecting you. Why am I telling you all this? Well, the most important part about this is that when you know how that's affecting you, I'm noticing for me, and especially with the ADHD stuff, I'm noticing how I respond every month. And by the way, for those of you who are, for those of the gals on the call, who've dealt with having, a monthly cycle, right? Then you remember, or that when you always forget. You always forget, God, I'm moody today. What's going on? And it's like, it's the energetic cycle inside of us. And we all have it. Even if we're not on that feminine monthly cycle, we are on a cycle that the moon dictates for us. And one of the things I'm hyper aware of, especially with this new awareness around, hey, wait a minute. I have been blindly going through my life and going, oh, today's this day where I have to talk to everybody. Well, why don't I then, take those kinds of experiences and say, that's a really important thing to do. And what are the things where I know I have to talk to a lot of people and do those on Moon Scorpio days because I can get to the bottom of things. In other words, I could have called my accountant. I could have called the bank and gotten something straightened out. So what I'm saying is you take the tasks, right, that are related to how that moon is going to be pulling you anyway. And just, like today, I was like, well, I didn't get that done. But you know what? I got really important things done. I had to back up 6 steps in order to go the direction I needed to go. But it still feels unfulfilling unless I can look at it and go, oh, Moon Scorpio. I'm just going to be trying to wheedle in there and get answers to things. So I'm not going to get things done that are creative for me because that's what it is. See, my third house is a talker. My third house isn't about concentration. Gemini doesn't, it's third house Gemini. That's where my Scorpio is. Now, also, what does that do? I think it's very, I don't know what happened. Oh, okay. Welcome. Is it Charis? Welcome. First time. Anybody else first time? Anybody else first time here? I want to welcome you. Lifted. Good to see you. All right. Okay. So, hey, McClellan, McKeekan. I hope I said it right. Welcome. Just want to welcome all of you. And so what I want to say about this is that the reason your sign and the moon becomes important is so that, for those of us that have a tendency to be sad, there are so many people's charts I looked at, and I just did a chart. I did an intuitive astrology reading last week for somebody, and I looked at their chart, and it was like, well, you probably have like a lot of emotionally depressing times. And they were like, yeah, how'd you know? I go, well, you got Scorpio conjunct your moon. So emotionally you get, if you're not productive, you don't feel good. And then I looked at what sign it was in. See, for example, I've got that stuff, but that sign for me is in Leo. Oh no, Capricorn. So it's good. When I'm all depressed, I get more done. So, because Capricorn is heavy, Saturn. So it's Saturn rules it. So I've got that. I was gonna say it's in my 5th house, so it's in Leo. But the point I'm making is that some people will have it in their 2nd house, like Taurus. And what do? They eat. I said to one woman, I was doing an intuitive reading with her, and I said, you don't even need to tell me why you're here. She said, what? I said, well, whenever you're in upset, you eat emotionally, and you just cannot, no matter what diet you do, no matter what you do, no matter what you think, you're gaining weight. And she's like, oh, how'd you know? Because you've got this in your 2nd house. It is a given to you, right? You've got, when you look at, think about this, moon conjunct Saturn. Moon is your emotions in your life, how you direct your emotions. Saturn is the planet of hard knocks. It's like how you're going to relate. So if you're sad and you've got Saturn sitting on you, it's like you don't even want to emotionally move, right? So then what happens when you're emotionally in upset? You're naturally going to blame yourself because you've got Saturn hitting you. So it's the way that can be, people say, how do I overcome it? And I'm like, you don't overcome it, but you learn about it so that when it gets triggered, you go, I do respond like that. I do respond being upset with myself. And I tend to beat the hell out of myself when I'm feeling that way. So what can I do that's going to make me see that's how I'm feeling and do something productive for me? So that has been, working with that has been an ongoing thing for me. And when I've worked with people, that's something you really begin to see. Now, for me, intuitive healing with astrology can be extremely powerful. I love being able to use astrology to point things out, but the reason I love using cards, and especially the chakra cards, and the reason I use, the decks I have, is because, and I don't even think I have them near me, it's okay. I did so much with them yesterday. Because when I look at Chakra Wisdom Oracle, or I use the Chakra Wisdom Tarot, I can almost instantly tell you how you're processing something in your body. Now, here's the thing. What if I teach you how to do it? People are like, I had people saying to me, well, if you teach other people how to do what you do, you're not going to have a job. I go, perfect. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, well, if people know how to deal with their own stuff, they recognize something and they can go, well, it's moon in Scorpio, and I know I've got this on my blah, blah, and I know this is how I am. I'm not going to try and run a marathon today. I'm going to instead clean my house or look for things I've lost. Moon in Scorpio is a great detective. So it's a great time. I've lost stuff. Go find it. So knowing that each of the cycles of the moon are going to be great for you. And how many of you put stuff off? Think about it this way. I don't know about you, but I'm like, I know that, and I was going up to Arlington last year to see my dad. He's buried there. And I was going up to the cemetery, and I had special papers because when you have a relative that's been buried in Arlington, they give you a pass. And I was like, I know the papers are around there somewhere. They're in the pile. So I knew kind of where they were, but I didn't want to look for them. But then I looked at the calendar and I went, this is a moon in Scorpio tomorrow. And you know what happened? Moon in Scorpio was like, I know exactly where it is. It's like, it's right here. Moon in Scorpio natally can find things for you. And they're also very good with pets. They're very, anything, Scorpios, if you're a Scorpio, you happen to be very good with pets. I don't know about you, but I don't have much Scorpio in my chart. So I'm like very much like the mother who's like, oh, you want to watch TV all night? Okay, that's fine. But with my pets, they always listen to me, right? Because I go, what are you thinking? And they go, but when people have Scorpio, they know how to train a pet. I can't tell you how many Scorpios I've known who kind of go, sit, and the dog just sits. It's like, I've seen Scorpios as trainers. They're brilliant because they're even. Scorpios don't tend to get mad. They tend to punish. Very different energy. Fire signs are going to be yelling and making the pet nervous. Whereas Scorpios will be like, okay. And then they'll just walk away. And the pet's even worse because they're like, I didn't do it right. So you see, they can get people and pets to do as they want because they know how to train. They know how to leave you alone and get you to do something. And it's really very energetic. So there are some very, very good things that it's a bit, I know it's a paper war. I know. So the thing that's interesting about this is that I just looked up and Dawn just said, oh my God, please don't talk about papers. So yeah, everybody has a bag of important papers. I want to tell you all, I finally found the dream accountant. And she's like, okay, seriously, she's got 5 planets in Virgo. Now I just kind of like, when I hire an accountant or something, I go, oh, let me look at your chart. Cause I don't look at anybody, She's like, why? I'm like, when's your birthday? I'm writing it down. She's like, Virgo. Oh yeah. And then, so she is actually a Virgo moon Scorpio with tons of Virgo. And I went, oh, this woman's going to find everything. So I went in and you see Scorpio, the wonderful thing about Virgos, they love to control everything. So when you have a moon in Virgo, you can like get everything organized. And then you can't organize any other time. Just so you know how you get that one burst of energy once a month where you go, I've got to clean it now. It's going to be based on where that Virgo moon is hitting you in your chart. And it won't be the same for everybody. It'll be slightly different based on your chart. So it was really funny with the accountant. I went in and I go, okay, yeah. And I said, well, I have to itemize all my credit cards. And she said, oh, okay. Do you want to do that? I go, not really. It's like, I'm the shoebox person. Okay. And she goes, oh, it's okay. Go through one with me. And I went, okay. I went through what each expense was. And she's like, I think I can figure it all out and I'll enter it all. I'll do everything. And then you can look at it. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm getting it right. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, don't tell her. Because she's like, oh no, it's all included. I'm not going to charge you extra. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to tell anybody about you. Because, those are the things I stress about, right? So what I want to say to all of you is that we all have it. We all have those times when it's like more challenging, but what we do, okay, and this is something that getting the clarity through actually recognizing and also getting the treatment for ADHD, I'm starting to see where my cognizant skills are not very good or haven't been good. Let me language it that way. They haven't been good because I didn't know. Now that my brain, as it is getting the proper, levels of stuff, now that they gave me the medication for this, I can go, oh, of course, all the papers are in my office. They're sitting there all the time because energetically, I can't do it all the time. I don't have that brain to do it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, and I'm able to look at the way things come together energetically, and I'm able to convey that a little bit better. So my hyper focus, and by the way, that's one of the blessings of ADHD, that I can literally, and I think I shared this with some of you, but one of the things also, even though we're antsy, we're also, hyper focused. So when I sit down and I start working, once it takes me a minute to get into it, but once I start working, I can sit still for almost 10 hours working and not realize I've worked that long. And I always said, oh, that's my moon in Capricorn. But yes, the moon in Capricorn probably adds to that ability to enjoy that. But the difference, because Moon in Capricorn is like workaholic, I love to work, but where you are, and it's not just your birthday. Let me just give you this. So I saw somebody put up that they were October 31st, Halloween. So if you are October 31st, okay, just to give you an example, that's great because obviously we know you're probably a Scorpio because you're in the middle. But there are other elements to it. And when I look at a chart and I'm starting to recognize, looking at my chart for productivity, and I'm now seeing with the new awareness in dealing with this issue, if you will, it's a cognitive disorder. I'm starting to recognize now, I can see how we can put together how other people can't focus based on their chart, but not just the day of your birth, the time of your birth. See, if I know the time and the place of your birth and I see your whole chart, I can give you an example of what that would look like for you. The days, right? I can say, well, it's going to be probably more challenging for you when the moon's in Virgo because you'll get too picky with yourself, right? You'll overanalyze everything. So moon in Virgo might be a good time to just organize something, organize your cookbooks or put things in alphabetical order, or if you even have cookbooks, but organize something and put them in order for yourself, especially if it's something that's going to hit you hard. Right? So the times when I don't have much energy, that might be a good time for me to just do some organizing on the computer that I don't want to get up and do. But there may be, so it's kind of like knowing how your energy flows. Am I making sense? Because I think this could be very helpful to a lot of us who kind of like, I don't want to move all the time. Yes. Overwhelmed, Jennifer. I'm so glad you said that. Okay, Jennifer just said, and this is great, because this is very ADHD, by the way, overwhelm. It's also a very feminine thing, but not knowing where to start with organizing. It's so hard to decide what things should go where. Oh, can I tell you something? My house looks like a sorority sister lives with me, okay? My evil twin, all right? Because she makes a mess. It's just like, let's see, GDP. I don't know what GDP is. Well, you're an empath. ENFP. I don't know what that is. I don't know what SEND is, but I know what an ASPE is. And here's the thing. And one of the things I love now about being part of the club, right? I feel like I'm a member finally of something that now I understand. So many people have so much like, being ADHD, and I'm like, are you kidding? I'm thrilled because now I can find people like me who get me. And I can, especially because I'm doing treatment right now, I can definitely see where, I'm interested in other people. I really am. And there are things that I never knew because my brain was moving so fast. And Jennifer said this, organizing. I have so much trouble organizing. I can't even begin to tell you. And by the way, I don't know if you relate to this, everybody. You set up the best organizing systems, right? And I got these beautiful, if I showed you, those beautiful boxes that open up and you can put stuff in. How many does Tori have? At least 15. And you know where they are? Upstairs in my closet, because once I put stuff in the box, I don't know what's in there. So they're all empty. So it's kind of like I try to organize that way. So one of the things that happens is my brain keeps saying, well, that might be important, but I can't differentiate between what's important and what isn't. Now, yes, that's an ADHD skill, but I also feel it's part of my purpose as well. In other words, when I look at, and some of you have heard me talk about this course that I did, that I created a couple of years ago called Life, Purpose, and Divination. And what it was about, and I'll tell you what it's about, is it's not just your purpose, it's about focusing and recognizing that what you really want is like right here. It's always in front of you, by the way. What you really want is the thing you run from the most. And if you want to really know what you're supposed to do in life, just try to hide from it because it won't go away. And that's a given. But what this course is about is ultimately finding your purpose. And there's a whole process to it that's really, I love this. It's my favorite course. And in fact, I might want to teach it again because it was really fun. It's a right now it's self-guided, but I might want to do a Q&A with it. So I might announce that. But it's such a great course because one of the things that you get, and I'm going back to what Jennifer said, just about the idea that if you know what the most important thing in your life is, I want y'all to drop your shoulders now and just, I know I've got like a lot of energy that's been spinning, so I'm just gonna bring it down. If you know what the most important thing in your life is, and I want you to just breathe and think about that. And it can be, listen, it can be, for right now, it can be your pet. I know for me, the most important thing in my life, my purpose, is the one thing that was trying to that my parent, my mother, tried to take from me, was my communication. And now I can look back and say she didn't want me to write or think, because as an ADHD child, I was always running around. I was always crying. I couldn't figure out how to put my thoughts on paper. So it makes a lot of sense that she would say I had no command of the language, because she had no command of understanding what the heck was going on. She had no way of knowing. Now, that doesn't let her off the hook. I'm not saying that, but it lets me off the hook from holding her accountable for my issues, because it's done. But there's another piece to that, which is that when I know that the most important thing in my life is communication and expressing to you that you're not alone. This has been, because I felt alone all my life. I mean, this is, and I think it is kind of an ADHD thing that we feel very alone. And when I express that, and many of you are not ADHD, but at the end of the day, what becomes most important to you, right, is the thing that eluded you. Now, something I want to say, I just saw in all caps, somebody wrote grandchildren. I think it was Cynthia. I answered your question the other day, by the way, on one of the posts. You asked about where to get my books, and they're on Amazon. If you just search my name, Tori Hartman, and go on Amazon in whatever country you're in, you'll see all my books and all my cards and everything. So, but I just saw grandchildren come up. So what comes forward to me about grandchildren, if you say that's your focus, let's dive under that. What is your real focus? Your legacy. That's your real focus. Now there's something else to that, because of course you want to leave a legacy. And guys, it's so hot, the hair's going to go up in a strange way. So just bear with me. Meaning I'm going to use a pen. So one of the things that you want to look at when you have, for instance, grandchildren, I'm just going to use this as an example, and I hope it doesn't, I don't mean to put you into upset. But one of the things that happens if your focus, if your focus is grandchildren, what's under that is the idea of your life having mattered because you left something behind that's so precious. Now, I want to point something out to you, which, by the way, it goes back. It's funny we're talking about this. It goes back to LPD, Life Purpose Divination, because one of the things I talk about in that course, and don't worry, I'm going to talk about it here. One of the things I really go over more in depth, let me put it that way, is the idea that we absolutely, in order to leave a legacy, we have to accept that we were left one, because someone somewhere saw you either as an unimportant grandchild or a precious grandchild, or you were not counted, or you did not count them as part of your legacy. And so what happens is, if we don't accept and honor our legacy, even if it was a challenging one, even if the crap was beat out of us, if we don't accept that someone somewhere, not necessarily the person that beat us, someone somewhere left us a legacy, we will not be able to recognize or leave one that's of value. So what you're really talking about with your grandchildren, if that's your most important thing, is helping them recognize the legacy they've been left and the energetic gifts they have from you and the other grandparents, filling in for them who they are and what their heritage is, so that they have an understanding of what's in them. So if you think about it, and when I work a lot with this, and I have to tell you that particular course, it doesn't require cards, it doesn't require anything. And I wanted to share with you guys, where is it? This is ADHD at work. I should have it around here somewhere. Oh, of course, I'll probably have it on the other side of the room. I just want to let you all know I am creating a new course around my new book that's coming out in November. It's called Chakra. I think it's Beginner Chakra it's chakra for beginners, and it works through all of this stuff. So I'm going to be creating that, and it's going to be I have to tell you, it's one of the few classes that I will teach live, because now what I do is I teach it and then I evergreen it so people can download it later. But LPD, like purpose divination, I might want to do again, just because I love that. I see it as such an important course. Let me just see where you go, but just see if anybody. I never knew how much my grandma loved me until I became a grandma. And you see and there's another piece to this. Cynthia wrote that, so I'm going to give you a little hint here. Now that you know how much your grandma loved you, I want you to write down all the gifts she gave you. And I want you to also look at your other grandparents and look at the incomplete things that they left behind. Because you may find that what you notice is incomplete can actually be something that has haunted you to complete in your life. Something around that energy. And again, this is stuff I do when I'm reading and working with people personally, but I'm giving you I'm giving you tips to do it. But really the only reason people would come to me for a reading is because they want to dive into this and they want to get that answer and they can't. For some reason it's hard to see for yourself, but if you can see it, you can see it. So you may get your answer in that. Let me see. Let me just see. Oh, am I buffering? Shoot. Ruthie, good to see you. Good to see you. What is GAD, Janet? I don't know what GAD is. You were born on your mama's birthday. Uh-huh. Yep. Okay, you got it. What do you think about David Icke and his belief that our energy fields are controlled by other entities through our first and second? Oh, no, I don't. No. And I'm going to say this to you all, okay? And I'm glad you said that, Humanimal. Some people do all this woo-woo stuff, and I think that in some ways they kind of make it seem as if something outside of you is controlling you. And you know what? I believe that some people really do feel that way, and I've got to tell you, I have seen and I don't like to say this, but I have seen that level of illness in mental wards, okay? And it's interesting, I've done some charts of people like that, but the thing I want to say about that that's important for you guys is that, anybody who's here listening to this, see, there's a reason we have all converged in this conversation right now. And if you can acknowledge that, even if someone listens to it a week later, there is definitely a spiritual reasoning behind this connection. So, and I love that you said that, Humanimal, because I think that the first and second chakra, what that person is trying to say is that our desires, our passions, our lust, all of that are outside of us. And I really think that while other things can stimulate that, I think that the decisions and what drives us is still inside. I mean, I think that, we are in a place now where we are willing to explore more of things than we did 20, 30 years ago, and it's really funny because I remember when I was a kid and I'd go on commercial auditions, I never booked anything. I had this frizzy hair and I was brunette, and these girls who were blonde and sweet always booked everything, so I felt like a slug, just a slug. But I can understand that kind of being left out of things, but I can't understand it at the level that a person of color would understand it. In other words, I can kind of sense, but I don't have the life experience. So I think what I'm trying to say to you about that is, in going back to the chakras, every one of our chakras has within us, we all have them, right? So it's not like, oh gosh, sorry, Humanimal, you don't have it. So what happens is we all have them, and they all have a level of wisdom that's within. Now, in my new book, and you'll see it on Amazon, by the way, if you go on, it says it's coming out November 5th. And I'm going to just go pre-order it because that course is going to be kick butt. And there's also going to be, and next week I start recording it. I'm going to record